So in the same way that, let's say you just choose to have a conversation with someone, you know, if I talk and you actually listen, then we are now creating something here. But if I talk and you talk and I talk and you talk and you talk, we're not actually, we may as well be somewhere else.
Relationships like that.
Right? It's actually, there's no union. There's nothing created. And this is the thing about creation. The masculine and feminine create something. This is a conversation. This is a something. If someone wants to paint, an artist wants to paint, the artist is masculine and the easel, or the canvas is the feminine. The canvas is nothing without an artist, and the artist is nothing without a canvas. It must, that's how creation happens. It's the same thing as if you just like make stuff but you have no idea in your mind, you can't do it. It has to have both. So now in relationships and intimacy, this is where things get a little confusing. And in our world, we've become very androgynous. And I don't mean this in a gender fluid way, I mean this in a, historically, we've all interacted very separately emotionally. You know, I don't know why, whether it's religion, war, famine, struggle, who knows, for whatever reason, we've
hormones, chemical hormones. I mean, chemical hormones we know have different interactions with the body.
Well, and there's a lack of safety, right? So, like, so we just met. If you felt like I was going to judge whatever you told me, you wouldn't tell me much.
Probably not, no.
Right? We would have some kind of weird surface conversation. Ah, yes.
About the weather, about your dog.
Right? And yes, I took that course too.
Right.
And that would be it. But as soon as there's a level of safety, suddenly the guards go down and you actually can have a genuine conversation, a genuine connection, a genuine union, right? So historically, this has been we've been very separate for whatever reason. Just maybe we were attacked all the time and we just learned to be defensive. I don't know. So now all of a sudden, two people come together in a couple. They come together, but they're actually, there's no heart open, safe place to come. You know, let's say 100 years ago or whatever. Everyone had a role to play. Dude had to go out and make money. She had to have babies. There's no birth control. Don't touch me, I'm gonna get pregnant again. Like, you know, it's like there's definite, we are just simply two people journeying together, living under the same roof because we don't know how else to do it.
Sure.
There's no time for it. Like, this isn't like, we don't have to demonize our ancestors because God knows
it's all they knew.
It's all they knew, it's
right.
all they could do, they were just surviving, right? But the problem is we will always polarize. So if we're separate, and let's say in one of the relationships you were talking about where it's unhealthy, if there's no genuine love connection, we will still polarize masculine and feminine, but one will become like a heavy controller and one will become a doormat.
Sure.
Right?
And if you have sensitivity, one person's sensitive, the other one will take advantage of that.
Right? And they will feed on it. Or the protector vulnerable thing, one will become ultra controlling of the other one and the other one will just become chaos so that they can't be controlled.
Right.
And so that polarity will happen in a dysfunctional, disconnected relationship. And that's what we're coming out of. Like, that's the foundation that we maybe were raised in, our ancestors were raised in.
Our family dynamics that's passed on. That's the belief system of how a relationship
That's all we
should be.
know.
Right.
Right? It's all the subliminal teaching around the kitchen table, right?
Sure.
That we don't even know we learned it. So then all of a sudden Tantra comes along and we say, not just Tantra, all spiritual traditions, but we come along and we go, what if we dropped all of our guards? And we actually were open to interact with someone in a united way. Well, then all of a sudden this idea of giving and receiving, you know, for me, I'm a very independent person, so one of my journeys has actually been even to ask for help, or to admit vulnerability, or to be able to cry and not, and know that that was safe, because we're taught to be strong, certainly for men. I mean, that's like you know, one person once said that for women, the only unacceptable emotion was anger, and the only acceptable emotion for men was anger. Right? And so it's like, but it all keeps everyone at a distance, right?
Sure.
So then, now all of a sudden we have this place where we actually want to unite with another person. Well, we need to be strong enough to drop our guards with another person. And this can even be parents and children. I mean, like, it can be all kinds of things, right? Where we're always holding strong to an ideal or something we want to be. But in order to be that vulnerable, it can't actually have anything to do with the other person. And again, this circles back to why Tantra is a divine journey. Because I need to have this connection, right? And when I know that all the words are so overused now, but you know, when I actually have this connection and I know that I am a completely divine, infinite human, blah, 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 well, how could you possibly hurt me?
Right.
Like, what could you possibly do?
Right.
So then all of a sudden, it's much easier for me to be open, and it's easier for you to be open. And also when we're here, we can't be judgmental, because the more we kind of connect in, the more we know that I have more stuff going on inside of me. How could I ever judge you?
It reminds me of martial arts. Some of the hardest people I've sparred against were the most open people. I remember sparring, and I've talked about this in other videos, sparring against a man who was smiling and happy, and his arms were flowing. I couldn't punch him. I couldn't kick him. And I was sparring with him for his black belt test, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. And then I had to spar against another guy who was really an angry guy, and he was super easy.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost like he was asking for it, and you know, in our sparring matches. But I remember how hard it was to hit this guy who was just open and happy and smiling and just in the best mood, and he just was a happy person, just generally. And I remember how hard it was to want to hit somebody who's smiling at you. It's really hard. It's almost like they don't take you seriously, and you're trying to muster up the strength or, you know, emotional content in a sparring match, because you have to have emotional content or you're not really sparring, you're play fighting. And I wanted to make him look good for his test, so I was really trying to. But I remember how much I struggled because he was so open and vulnerable.
Well, you know what that feels like to me? It's like the sparring and that emotional thing is like, in order to spar effectively, you have to stay separate.
Yeah.
Which isn't true, because we're not separate.
Mm.
So the happy guy, you know, you've got this heart connection with him, so you're actually one. So
Right.
If you hit him,
You're
hitting
yourself.
you.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Which sucks.
Sure.
Right?
No.
Like, how can I really put muscle behind this?
Yeah. And with the healing work I've done, what I ask people to do is to put themselves in intense vulnerability and call out the things that are happening. Call out the elephant in the room. As if, you know, someone says something horrible to you and you say, well, that makes me feel horrible, what you just said to me. And that's just like, that's really inappropriate. I really don't know what to do with that. So I will, how about you walk out the door, come back in and try it again? And that's a funny one, if you have a real close relationship with that person. But calling out, saying how I feel about what you just said is just, you can stay in vulnerability without having to go into fear and protective mode and try to fight back. But I know we're getting a little off topic, but it's really interesting that if you just stay in that vulnerability and just call out the thing that's happening and how you respond to it, you can stay vulnerable. You don't have to go into a different mode of protectionism.
And it's just a truth. Like, this is the whole thing with this divine, it's a singularity. Like, I can't get, you know, it's just what is. It's like you do something and I immediately feel sad, or I feel really hurt right now.
Right.
That's all. It's only the mind that now takes it into writing an essay about it. It's like, that's all the truth is. And you could be like, wow, I so didn't intend that. That's so weird. Huh. And that's it. Like, it's not, like, our brains make too much out of everything. And it's like, okay, well, I don't, and if you love the other person, you'll say, that really wasn't my intention. I'm really sorry. Like, I don't want you to feel like that. Like, and that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be, and maybe the other person goes, you know what, it's not even you, it's just that that's how my dad used to talk to me, and I really feel...
Or they're having a bad day.
Or they're, you know, and it's like, huh, like, isn't that beautiful?
It's not a personal thing. When you call it out and then they think about it, then they have to find out where it comes from. Because when you bring something back to the person, someone's doing something, you bring it back to them, then the conversation inside of them is, well, where's that coming from?
Well, okay, so, you know, now that I just remember we were talking about sexual healing.
Sure, no, absolutely, let's go back to it. Good segue.
Right? Right. So, this is a big thing. So then the masculine-feminine dynamic. The masculine is the protector and the feminine is vulnerable. And this can go either way. Like, it's not a... Historically, it made sense that the feminine was vulnerable in, let's say, in the wild, because the feminine had children. And the masculine had to protect the children. Like, it's not a women are weak thing. It's a plain survival thing. But how that works in relationship is, if I'm having a bad day, so the vulnerable is chaos. It's all that mystery. It's the feminine. We always like to go put it into polarities like that, but really the feminine is chaos, mystery, unknown, under the surface, all these kind of things. And the masculine is logic, structure, stillness, all these kind of things. So these two things, but they work together. They create safety.
Right.
That creates safety, right? So now let's say I'm just having a bad day, right? Something's happened. Maybe there's a death in the family. Maybe it's not just a hormonal thing. It's actually like, this is really bad. And I think, you know what? Orion, he can polarize this. And I'm not going to say that. I'm going to go, oh my God, I want a friend. That's what I'm going to think. But I'm going to call the friend that can polarize out of my chaos so that I can stay in chaos and they'll stay strong. Because in order for me to explore my chaos, I need someone who's just going to hold me in their arms and go, give her, cry it out, let it go. Yeah. You don't want anyone...
Back to the heart, because healing happens always, what I've learned, through the heart. It can't go in the head. It's in the head, it has to come out through the heart. So releasing, crying, letting go, breathing, even screaming, sometimes just let it all out. It always blows out through the heart, and then the heart settles back down again.
But the key is for us to go into that very, very vulnerable, scary place wherever we're hurt. Sometimes we can do it on our own, but this is where we're not on islands. We're given each other to help each other and to grow together. So all of a sudden you find a friend, and that friend says, come here, and you naturally just hold them, and they sob. And all our role is, as the one holding, is the masculine. And this is this masculine feminine. And the stronger I am, and the stiller I am, and the quieter I am, right? No fixing, no anything, just stillness.
That's always hard for us guys, no
100%.
fixing.
Stillness to the chaos, right? That's all it is. And you hold and hold and hold. And for the person in chaos to go, are you? And they're like, nope, as long as you need, just give her, just go, 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 go. And then healing happens, simply out of that polarity, right? So sexually, what's really fascinating is there's even a deeper potential for that healing, because now you're getting triggered on very, very intimate ways, right? The first, second chakras, security, relationships, all these, safety, all these things. We often walk around with them very shut down, right? I mean, these are the, oh, maybe I'll look at this one because that's an easier one to look at, or my heart, or whatever. But it's this stuff is I'm embarrassed, I have shame, there's so much stuff here, I have fear. And very seldom does that get triggered outside of a romantic relationship. So now all of a sudden you found a partner, and you trust them. Well, as soon as you start getting intimate, everybody's going to get triggered. And now all of a sudden, and a lot of times this is when the relationship ends, because it's men are all the same,
right.
Women are all crazy, whatever, But instead, if it's funny, so I'm in a new relationship, and at the beginning it was like that. I was really surprised, even after all my experiences, everything, it's like that layer of the onion thing. You have no idea how many layers there are, right?
And everyone triggers different things.
Totally.
Sure.
And everyone has a different degree of safety. Because the safer the masculine is, in the land of, people are always wondering, how does a man be a masculine male? Be safe. That protector side to the feminine vulnerability is so important. It is not about doing this, it is about being safe. And so all of a sudden, we're being intimate, blah, 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 and all of a sudden something happens and something inside of me clenches, right? Because something has triggered me into pure defensive mode.
Sure.
And I remember the first time it happened with this man, and I could feel myself turning away, right? I was I knew this would happen. I knew, whatever, right? And
or you think because you're an expert, you
this is just it, right? And it's you think you've got this all figured out, and then then real life happens because we're just people. And it was so interesting, and he kept sort of drawing me out, what's going on? You can tell me. He was just safe beyond safe beyond safe, right? And it was and in my heart, I remember the moment where I thought, I have a choice to turn away or turn towards.
Turn into it.
And have the courage to turn towards. And I remember literally, physically, I went, I physically turned towards, and I started sobbing.
Yeah.
And he just held me, and he just let me sob and sob and sob.
And then it felt better. But you also had a moment of connection where you were...
Right, but that masculine, feminine thing, and of course, and it can go either way. It doesn't have to be the man being, protector and me being the... But that to me is one of the greatest sexual healings that's possible. Because it's the intimacy, it's these deep, deep fears that we store You know, it doesn't take a few decades of experiences. Like, we got some stuff stored, right?
Sure.
So then to have that safety in such deep intimacy, anyone can do it. Like, it's just simply